I think it's time now, so let's. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the IETF 123 IV Working Group meeting. So I guess it's lunchtime now for on-site participants, and also because it's Friday today, so really thanks everyone who have made it to the IV session. Welcome. So my name is Tu Fang, and we have my co-chair Daniel in this room. I'm remote this time. Please be aware that session is being recorded. Next slide, Daniela. This slide is about Notewell. I'm sure you have seen this slide a lot of times during this week. But still, as a reminder, when you participate in the IETF and make contribution, please be aware that you must follow a set of IETF policies and rules. So please be aware that your involvement in IETF may be made public, and you are aware that contribution is covered by patent applications. You have the responsibility to follow that fact. And if you are with this slide, we do have a couple of documents that you may refer to. So I will go with the next slide. And this is about conduct guideline. This is actually about the way how we should treat with each other. Although we may have some heated discussions and disagreements is fine, but just please keep this at a very technical level and don't set any personal discussion and comments. Let's please treat your folks with respect and courtesy. This is very important. Next slide. And so we use Meet Echo for this meeting. And for in-person participants, please sign into the session where that tracks all the QR code in the room. So you may use either use the Meet Echo line or the on-site version to join the queue or participate in the pollings. And for remote participants, please keep your audio and video off unless you are actively speaking. And we also encourage the use of a headset. So next slide. And for note taking, we do need 1 or 2 volunteers for to help us capture the discussion. So we do need some discussions be captured on the notes, but other contents are available as a slide. And our session today will last for 1 hour and a half. The chairs decided to shorten the time from 2 hours to 1 hour and a half because we don't usually have a very packed agenda. So 1 hour and a half for this session. Please be aware of that. Next slide. And this is a reminder that we work remote most of the time. Please make good use of the mailing list. And you should be aware that any working group consensus is determined on the mailing list. And we can also arrange some interim meetings as needed. If you have some topics that you think would be a good discussion for interim meetings, please make requests to chairs and we will arrange as you like. And we also have some informal meetings. We have the WebEx resources meeting for the working group. Any working group member can make requests to chairs. But also the meetings will be announced on the mailing list, and these meetings are fully public, and everyone is welcome to join the discussion. Next slide. And here is our agenda today. So still we will mainly focus on the base inventory discussion as the next presentation. A group of people work really hard and meet every week to try to push it to the finish line. Thank you for the working group. And also then we'll followed by Ehua to present the passive network inventory model. And then finally, I think Diego will present the entitlement inventory presentation. So no new topics for this time. Any agenda question? Go ahead, Maharsh.
Mahesh, any update on the other work group adopted documents?
That was exactly part of the next session, next introducing it. Yeah, we have a working group status. We will spend quite some time on the base inventory model. The goal is to bring it to a status that is good enough to move forward. We still have some issues to clear. We prepared a lot of questions to be asked to the working group to help move this forward. So please join Meetico so that you can participate to the polling. Then there are two drafts which are working group drafts which will not be presented today, which are the software inventory and the topology mapping. Bo has sent an update on the mailing list. I don't know if you want to come to the mic share the update with the working group, if you would like to do so.
Thank you. Um, because right now, the topology one is a quite generic one. It's a part of SciMap. So in this model, we keep the this model support bidirectional navigation from inventory to topology and topology to inventory. And we authors discuss it, and we think it's quite stable, and we think this model should be kept simple as it is. So Italo said there is some discussion from base inventory, and there's a breakout function in there, and they in their discussion they will feel like they may be part of topology, but we also discussed, we feel it may be the augmentation based on this inventory topology. So, and for the location, this is a quite independent, it's not that independent, but it's based on the inventory top container, it adds more of location metadata to provide like location-based inventory, query, or these kind of functions. And this model is quite, we feel it's quite stable. And the next one is software. Uh, the only issue with software is that the base inventory may focus on the hardware part, but the software is only focused on the software part. But during the base inventory definition, there's some software revision also defined. So that's something may have some issue and needs to be discussed further. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
So just a question to the chairs also. Do we believe that any of the documents are ready for working group last call?
So all of the documents have dependencies on the base model. So that's the one that we need to progress. There are some open issues left to be solved. The idea, so like in many other cases, we could continue building on top forever to make it super perfect to cover all possible scenarios in the world. We decided to draw a line and deliver something that is good enough to the SG. So the plan is to work today to resolve all of those open issues. Obviously, close them on the mailing list, but
Daniele, excuse me, Daniele. Your microphone is probably switched off.
thank you. I speak loud enough to hear myself in all the room.
All right.
So I was saying that's the priority, and once we unlock it, the others will come as a consequence. Thank you. There is an incoming liaison from BBF. They are basically asking for the status of some of our drafts because they are planning to use them as the basis for their work, which is called the network resource model. Actually, I've already sort of informally replied to this liaison, explaining a little bit what our plan is. I think we could draft a formal response where we explain how the IETF work, how the IETF process works, and the fact that we can take the commitment to speed up, but we have a limited control over the drafts. Ayo, you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little context because I was also one of them drafting this liaison statement, and several of us here was also part of the development within BBF for the model. So just like IETF here, we have in BBF they have the topology model, which is built on RFC 8345, and the inventory model, which is now building depending on those three working group draft. There's a plan in BBF to publish the BBF model, young model, hopefully by end of the year. And looks like right now the three dependent model, the base inventory model is in pretty good in a steady state, and hopefully we'll get to working group last call soon. But the other two models are still under development. So basically, the purpose is just to gauge, how much it's going to take for the two models to reach like final state, right? Because otherwise they will have alternative plans in order to get their model out of the door.
Yeah. Okay. We will do it.
Xian Song from ZTE, the BBF liaison officer. Thank you, Aihua, for the clarification on the BBF current status of the project. I think this liaison is for information, but actually, BBF want to know the dates or the timeline for the Ivy works. Because the BBF data model, which project is WT454ECO2, it has dependencies on these drafts. So as Aihua mentioned, maybe this project, actually I think the data model at BBF has completed. So maybe they want to know the progress or the plan of the dependent IVA drafts. Yeah, it may be very helpful to respond to BBF,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as you heard before, the drafts building on top of the core model are in a pretty good shape. So moving them forward would be pretty easy. We just needed to do the final refinements on the core model, and then the rest will come relatively fast.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Just a quick amendment. So basically with the BBF consideration, I think the main, at least the bottom line is they wanted to understand if there will be any changes that will result in any backward compatible, non-backward compatible changes, right? Because otherwise it will make an impact.
That's what we usually try to avoid. Yes. Okay. And the last but not least, Olga, please.
I just wanted to mention that in NMOP for the CMAP, we are addressing few gaps in the RFCA 345 for topology. For example, bidirectional and multipoint. So those ones we would be proposing the modeling extensions there. So maybe there will be an impact into the inventory topology because you need bidirectional, I suppose, as well, and not unidirectional.
Bidirectional navigation, it's not bidirectional link.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Do you expect the impacts on the inventory?
Not on inventory, but maybe on topology.
On topology mapping,
Maybe
yes.
on topology mapping, minor impact, and on BBF as well.
Okay, sounds good. And as I was saying, last but not least, I wanted to share with you the reason why Shufang is not here today, which is possibly the best reason for not being here. She has her hands very full of a load of love. She just had a baby. So please join me in congratulating with her for the great achievement.
Thank you, Daniela. Thank you, everyone. I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone upon my return. Thank you.
Okay, we are ready for the first presentation.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm presenting some status and open issue for the base inventory model. And the objective is to get it ready for working group last call. So a short update, we made some changes during the after IETF 122. We discussed, clarify how it is possible to extend the base model, and we updated the model, removing component-specific containers, adding an its main attribute, some reusable grouping for the component attributes, and we split the common entity groupings into two groupings because one of them can be reused also elsewhere, and one is more for our model. And we completed the appendixes with the example for port breakouts and also with the multi-chassis network elements. So what are the, we have a few open issues, which we qualified a priority one, which means that we need to address those open issues to make sure that our base model can progress and without any backward compatible change if we don't, if we change our mind. So the first issue is about the attributes, and there are many, but they are more correlated to each other. One is about the attributes of network element, and in particular the modeling of the software part. And the second one is about modeling of the slots, which has implication about how do we navigate from char into parent component. One is the fact that the breakout port may be modeled more in the topology rather than in the inventory. And there are some other related impact on the definitions of port chassis and so on. And we have to analyze the impact on ATT48 and YAN hardware is left at the end. Once we know what to do, maybe we can see what are the impacts. Maybe none, depends on what is the resolution. And then the last one, the last two are mainly editorial. One is to write down the security considerations, which is an editorial work, no need to discuss here. And then some editorial cleanup, read the text, making sure that the English is correct and so on. So what are the first issue is about how to model the slot. So the current model is that the slot is a component. So we have within the network element a list of components, and we have the component class, which can distinguish whether the component is a chassis, or is a slot, or it is a card. And we represent, the example, if you have a chassis with 5 slots, we report 5 components of type slots under and that have as a parent component the chassis. And then the two, if you have a card, which is a single slot card, like the card X, that has a parent, which is slot A1. If it has a card Y, which has 2 slots, we have an open issue, but we need to report that the parents are slot A3 and slot A4. The alternative solution which is proposed, has been proposed, is maybe to say the slots have some life cycle dependency with the card they belong to, and there are a lot of attributes for the slot which are not really needed for the slot. So the idea was to put the slots under the component. So the chassis will have 5 slots. So we don't report the 5 slots as 5 independent components, but we report them as slots available under the chassis. And then for every card, we can say what are the slots it is occupying. Okay, we had some discussion also on the main list, and we identified some advantages and some concerns. So the advantage is that the model looks closer to the reality, where the slot is part of the component and there's not a life cycle independency. It's that make our model closer to the TMF older concept. We reduce the number of component instances because we don't have to list in the components or the slots, and we remove about confusion about the fact that some of the properties, like the part number, there is no part number, or there is no manufacturing name for the slot. Nobody manufactures space in the chassis. The concern that has been raised is also the fact that the container component class is already defined by an hardware, so we need to write down something, maybe recreate a new registry for the component class to make sure that the container component which represents the slot is not used. And also there is report that implementation of IETF are already aligned with our current model. And on the other side, when we say we have less component instances, but actually we are moving the slots under a component. So if you start counting, instead of having 8 component instances like in the current model approach, we are going to have 3 component instances, but we have 5 slot instances under the chassis. So then people, how you count is depends on how you count. And the component attributes, okay, not only the component attributes for slot, but also for other components, we will see later on the hardware and software revision are somehow optional, not always applicable to every type or every type of component, or basically not to every instance of the component. So maybe the confusion, it can be clarified by some text or by some guidelines. And there is also one data is not clear. There is a use case in ONFTR 547, which is a corner case where a slot can be logically divided into subslots without any hardware, which is not currently supported, but I think the alternative proposal can be easily adopted. And instead, it's quite straightforward to do that with the current model, because we can have a container which has as a parent component another container. Okay, so that's this is more or less the analysis that we have done, and the consequence, a side consequence of that, is that we are blocked on this issue. So we need to understand that the current model supports only one parent. But we found that there are, at least the only case where we found is the case where the card occupies more than 1 slot. In this case, we may have more than 1 parent. And we found that, for example, in IETF we have this contained choice, which is the reverse association, but there was some concern about all the duplicated information that you put there just to report the case where you have more than 1 parent. So we have 2 options here. One option is to make the parent a list, or basically there was some ideas that maybe a variation of that is, rather than making a parent a list, since parent has a strong connotation, and when you have a parent, you may also have the parent relative position, or when you have a parent list, you don't need to have the parent relative position. We can add a new attribute and call it other parents. So that's going to be basically the main slot, and the other parents are going to be the other slots which are occupied by the card. This option 2, of course, if you go with the alternative option, the solution is solved, because the alternative option says that the occupied slot is a list by definition, so no issue with that. So maybe, I don't know, I think we can stop here.
Yes. It's time to start asking questions. So I'll give you couple of seconds to join Mitico if you have not yet done so. And we start the first show of hands. So, for modeling the slots, should we keep the current model or adopt the proposed alternative model? Please answer if you don't have an opinion, or if you don't care, please also answer saying that you don't have an opinion or you don't care. Yes, you're right. Sorry, the question could be written better. Yes.
Sorry.
Should we keep the current model? Yes, or adopt the alternative proposal?
So while people are filling up the poll, one clarification, if I might, Italo's, are you saying that with the modified version, we have a conflict with the hardware? Okay, maybe that wasn't quite.
Oh,
apparently.
no, it's not a conflict. It's okay. The class container. Okay. So the class container is the identity for the class container is defined IAN hardware. So I can instantiate a component of class container if I use IAN hardware. If you go with a new approach, basically, unless we want to keep two options with a different ways to do the same thing,
Okay.
then we need to say, don't use other, and maybe we can put a master, we may need to recreate a new registry. I don't know what is going to be the best approach. That's something to be discussed as a second level of detail.
Okay. And for people who are polling no opinion, I just want to make sure that this is that they don't understand and therefore have no opinion, or is it that they really don't agree with the?
Or maybe they don't see any, well, maybe there
a
are a lot
still-
of people that don't see any strong reason to change it or any strong reason to keep.
By the way, that's a good point. Now that Italo clarified, you still have time to change your answer. So if it moved from a no opinion to yes or no, you are still able to do so. So as of now, Swami, yes.
Just my thoughts on this, right? We have discussed this. If let's say we are designing this from scratch, let's say, right? If we exist in a world where nothing previous implementation existed, this is a very nice approach that's been proposed, right? Unfortunately, there are so many products that already use the existing RFC. It's just simply too costly to make a change. That's the only thing, right? It's a decision not based on whether it's good or bad, right? It is what it is, right? So, I mean, changing this is very expensive. We looked at it, so hence keep the current one strongly.
Strongly. Strong.
So, Swami, so that's your concern is the impact on the existing implementation. Because I don't see anything broken with the current model. It's not fundamentally broken, but you think the current model has impact on existing implementation.
Please, Daniel.
Yes, yeah, of course.
So just two things. One is it's a trivial mapping, so we can easily do it. So I'm sure other people can. And secondly, it's like putting wooden wheels on a Porsche. So that's my problem. We never move forward. So we always use wooden wheels. We're carrying using wooden wheels. Doesn't work. We need to go forward.
Since I'm one of the that has no opinion, just to clarify at least my point. I see the problem in the original one, but this solution is really sounds a little bit. I don't know. It's counter. It's against a good old formal logic. It's against that. I mean, it's complicated and it's.
Sorry, which one? The alternative?
The new one.
The new one. Okay.
And then, frankly, my idea is that, I mean, if the problem that the original one causes is so big that I don't believe is the case, well, but so I'm totally undecided because I'm not sure about the size of the original problem that I believe. I mean, my first impression is that no, I was about to say yes, but then I thought, well, I'm not that much familiar with what's going on, and so I prefer. That's in my case. I don't know if it's in the case of the others that are put it. Just to clarify, so we don't get scorned by mice, because we are not.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So it seems that we have a strong preference with the 15 votes against 2. This leads to the next question. Which was poorly formulated again, so we needed to explain it. Should we make the parent a list or add a new other parent list to support the multi-slot cards? So should we make the parent a list? Yes. Or add a new other parent list is no. Also here there seems to be some consensus.
Again, might be, in my mind, the confusion. Generally, you only have one parent. So
Yeah, but
what does it mean? Okay. Yeah, what does the new other parent list imply?
Maybe you can go back to the slide showing it.
Yeah. This one? Okay, the problem is, I don't have the figure, but the problem is when you have a card, or maybe the figure here, the example. When you have a card which is occupying 2 slots, it occupies slot number 3 and slot number 4, then the 2 slots are 2 components. And then you have to point to say that my card is pointed to slot A3 and as well as slot A4. And sometimes in the naming convention, people just report the first slot. That's why there is an advantage, in my opinion, to separate the main parent from the additional parent. Maybe the third parent is, yes, is where you are, basically, yeah.
So the idea is that we can't mark the other slot as empty.
Empty, correct, yes. The other slots are occupied by the card. Yeah.
Sorry?
Or a third solution could be you have one parent.
No
and
third
if-
solution. We have a yes or no.
I mean, people are open here, right? I'm just saying that, right? I'm just saying that. I mean, there are more ways to solve this. Is what I'm saying, right? There are more than 2. Okay.
Okay. Okay, no more than 2 was proposed so far, but of course.
Okay. And it seems we have consensus also for this one. Terminate. Okay. If you think that this was complex, you'll see the next question. It's getting worse.
Okay, no, the next one is list 3/456 number of issues all interconnected together. Okay, so there was a comment about that some of the attributes for the network elements do not actually apply to the network element. And we have some review and we discover, for example, the manufacturing date. See, the network element, okay, the first clarification that maybe the term network element may be confusing. Then many people have a different idea. We try to clarify the definition of the network element, and if you have any comments, send it to the list. We propose changes, but the idea is that the network element is basically an assembly of components, and is not necessarily related to what is the management entity. And that was one clarification that we tried to discuss in the previous meetings, but it seems that still the term is confusing. Some people get confused by that. So because of that, it's an assembly. We said, okay, some of the attributes, for example, manufacturing date in assembly is not manufactured. Is the manufacturing date is for every component that you are assembling. The same, the serial number is for every component that you are assembling, that you have a serial number. So we agreed these two attributes will be removed. The hardware revision maybe is not correct, but sometimes since it is sold, the network element is an assembly which is sold as a product, as a name, and as a product revision. So we will rename it as a product revision. And the big discussion was where we are still stuck is on the software information for the network element. So one option was to keep these to represent, for example, as we said, there was a split between software and base and software inventory. The idea was to keep the minimum set of software information in the base and enhanced information in the software inventory. So the idea was, if I have a network element with a single OS, I can use this information to report the revision of the OS running on the network element. I heard after the discussion yesterday, I can also sell a network element with a software package that runs not only the OS, also everything. I can report at the level of the network element the software revision, only one for the whole network element. And you can apply also patches. The other option is that, no, we don't do that. We just say the network element has this product number. And if I want to report the OS running to the software, I need to implement the software inventory model and report one or multiple components of type OS. And it was noted that having the possibility to have more than one OS revision was helping doing the software upgrade, because you have the active and the standby, one instance of one release of this OS installed, another release running, another release installed but not yet running. So we had a lot of discussion also yesterday on all this dynamicity, and we thought that this complexity should go into the software inventory model. The question is whether we should take out everything out from the base or leave a minimum set of information like this actual software version running on the network element. Mahesh, you want to ask?
Sorry, I don't mean if you want to.
Oh, it's okay. Okay, I'm okay.
I'm just getting
up to you. It's fine. And we have a similar issue for the component. In the component, at this moment in time, we have the hardware revision, the software revision, the software patch revision, and the firmware revision, with the same idea that if I have an hardware component with a single instance of software running on it, I don't need to implement the software inventory model. I can just report the other component saying there is only one instance of software, and this is the running version. The same for the firmware and the frame from the software. So we had some discussion about whether it makes sense, or maybe to say, no, in this case, I still report the hardware component as an hardware component with a hardware revision, and then I can report one or multiple software components which has this hardware component as a parent, and then I report the software revision for each component. And then I can report whether the software is installed, running, and so on. So we had some questions, doubts here, because we can have some other component which comes with only one running software, with not separated per number, but somebody say, well, you can have multiple running software modules, and then you can have a list of software revisions under the component, and then if we actually say no, we just report the hardware component is only having another version, then maybe if the hardware component is only another version, the software component is only a software version, the firmware component is only a firmware version, maybe we can have only one revision string rather than putting many swing statements, and then the revision is an hardware revision if it is an hardware component, a software revision if it is a software component, and so on. So this was many of the issues many ideas that were flowing on the paper. And one item that was discussed yesterday was that also the relationship between hardware component and software component is not exactly the same, because the hardware component has a parent hardware component, or you can have multiple parents hardware components based on the discussion we had before. But the software components can running over one or multiple components, can be installed over one or multiple components, or can even be stored over one or multiple other components. One possibility here is that maybe we can say that the parent represents the running, and for install and stored, we create new associations in the software inventory. So we keep the current model as it is, and we keep the component being both either hardware or software components.
The funny thing is that we started saying, let's keep things simple.
Yes. Yes. Another comment that we got was, what about the attributes from 317? We noticed that most of these attributes are not applicable to network inventory because are covered by other model like location, or because we have already other attributes which are duplicated. And the only things that is applicable at the network element level is the OS name, OS release, and OS version, which raises two issues. If we keep, which depends on whether or not we keep the software information in the base. If we keep the software revision on the network element, maybe we need to add a software name or an OS name in addition to revision, and to clarify what is the name of the software running on the network element. And then there is two ways to represent the revision of the software: a string, or we can have two attributes, release and version. So the question is, what do we want to adopt? to indicate what is the name, the software, and version of the patch. Okay. No, that's the next one. Okay, so this completes a bit the mess. And here we have a lot of options, which depends on
exactly
sub-options and sub-option and sub-option.
Okay.
We have a lot of questions
So
coming
before
up,
we
but
get
let's
to
clarify
sub-options.
something
Let's first
before
make
asking
clear that the
questions.
comments, the issue is clear and the possible resolution are clear, then we can go to the poll.
So Mahesh, speaking as a contributor, so first of all, as I'm trying to wrap my head around this, I do agree, or at least based on your explanation, understand that software as a network operating system running on a network element probably best belongs in the software model. So that's one piece of software. What I'm a little more confused, let's say, about is what we consider firmware version. And I know you had it, and
which one, sorry?
Firmware version.
Oh, firmware is for the net component only, yes.
So
Yeah.
firmware version as it relates to a particular network element.
Not necessary, can be on
No,
the card,
okay,
can be on the card, yeah. That's why we put on the component and not on the network element. Even if we have a priority to issue to add it to the network element as well.
So then, so let's take the case where it's not a chassis. It's a 1RU system, and there's, for all practical purposes, no slots or no components. What would be the firmware revision, or if
You
I
have a
had
chassis,
to,
you have a network element with one chassis and at least one module.
Yeah.
And at least one port.
Okay.
So you can put that firmware in the module component.
In the module component. Okay.
Maybe we can add the example of this network element in the appendix.
I see. Okay. Let me think about it.
Okay.
Just let me try to add a little bit more of confusion to this. In my team, we have started, well, we have been for some time discussing about ontologies and why ontologies are important. And I think this is a clear ontological problem. I believe that, I'm not saying that we don't have a clear definition, but I'm not going to say that, but the point is that we have a clear limits for what is something. And probably is precisely what we had to decide in order to bring this. I mean, in my view, a network element is something that is providing a particular essential part of a network service or a network infrastructure, and that can be separated in parts, but it's not part of another thing that can be considered as this. It's sort of sort of a molecule of a substance. And the other case, we're talking about atoms in the case of components. There are software elements, the same way you have hardware elements that you cannot use outside of you cannot use a card or whatever outside of the element, is that there are software elements that don't have any use outside of it or cannot migrate to one to another. then I would put that inside the element, whether it's a hardware element. Because when we're talking about the software element, my understanding is that we're talking about something that is, I can take it, well, typically a cloud infrastructure, move to another cloud infrastructure, and it's going to work. That can have, for sure, a software component can have a software element can have software components. If we draw that line that this is about this autonomy of being existing in the network without, I think that we could find a way of distinguishing. And in that sense, I do believe that we need to have some entries for software components inside the hardware element, because that implies that it's something that cannot run, doesn't make any sense to run it independently, and is required for the software hardware element to be there. Just as a criteria that we could use for this.
Roberto as a contributor. Italo, I know you will hate me for bringing this back. Can you go to the slide, the first slide of...
this one?
Yeah, yes, this one. So beside the software that we are going to poll it now, I'm also not very convinced that removing the manufacturing information is correct here for the network element, because in this way we are assuming that the network element is always a logical entity that is grouping components that will have those information. But this assumes that all the network elements are modular. So in the case that you have a monolithic and non-modular network element, like a switch or a single
that's the case.
block,
I think you still have a component.
You are forced in that case to add a chassis or a kind of component to that. So it's forcing the implementation to add a component.
Yes,
inside.
I think, that was
so
the idea.
I'm not completely sure.
There was the idea to have always at least the
chassis
and the module and
but
the port.
The chassis
because take into account that some of these singular use sometimes are sold in a multi-chassis network element. So it's that's advantage, in my opinion, that you have a common way to represent your components. But it's going to be a chassis. The chassis is definitely modular. You can move it as well, and also it's also the attribute, the element that we are using in the inventory. The inventory is saying in this rack, in this position, you have this chassis which belongs to this network element. So at least the chassis should be part of that network element. For the module, we can discuss. The port definitely, because they have topology associated. So
then we are assuming that there will be always at least
one chassis. I think so. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. That's my view.
Okay. Thank you.
Camilo.
Hello, Camilo from NTT. The first email that I sent to the mailing list, at some point I said that what was the strategy of the group when we knew that the model wasn't covering everything we wanted, how we were going to improve it. And I wasn't meaning to be hurtful or anything, it's because this is a complex topic. And we were going to find cases in which the model wouldn't fit it. Having said that, I think we should embrace complexity instead of saying that. So I will suggest, I don't have an opinion now because I will suggest to just cut use cases at some point. At the beginning, I just said, I need record ports, I need the stacks. I mean, that was the only two things. They are complex enough, you have seen it from the previous slides. So I would say, do whatever you want on this, whether you will cover or not, make a decision and say, okay, maybe this we don't cover now. And let's gain experience. If there's a version 2 of this model, that means that it was successful because somebody was using it and it wasn't covering what they want. If this is never used, then we leave it like that because nobody's using it. So I think just cut any use case, make your decision. I don't even know, and go.
The upcoming questions are moving in that direction, in fact. So question number 3, and likely this is a yes or no question.
Yes.
Shall we keep the revision of the running software and patches under the network element? Yes or no? Okay, so this leans towards a yes, which brings to question 4. Because if it was no, it was a question 7. You think my life is easy. Okay, there is a clear indication, so I'm closing it fast. And we are moving to question 4, which is shall we report the OS name or software name for the network element in addition to software revision? And likely this is another yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, a clear yes. Which brings us to question 5. And here, be careful how you answer, because if you answer one thing, we have one more question. If you answer the other, 3 more questions. So pick it correctly. I'm not saying which one, but pick the correct answer. Okay, this is number 5. Shall we allow an hardware component to report the revision of the running software and patches and of the running firmware? I know which one takes it to the single question, so I'll vote for that.
So basically keeping all these attributes.
Exactly. Better to explain. Okay. Likely we have clear positions, which helps a lot taking decisions.
Yeah, just one comment on that one, Daniele.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think it's if we keep I would say the running versions here, we just need to be careful because at the software model we have the status again for the same version, so some conflict maybe are rising there. So we just need to be careful about I would say the consistency of what we're reporting in the base model and the one in the software. So that's we will take care about this just in the modeling part. Yeah, but just we need to be clear in the base model what is the I would say the implication of having this and how we can interpret it and how it can be linked to this elsewhere. But
that's the idea. It's not clarified and we need to clarify. That's the running software. And maybe we can add other clarification and then the relationship between this and the software maybe is more to clarify in the software inventory.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. And the last of this batch is 6.
So
shall we keep a single software revision or have a list of a software name, software rev for a component? Once again, yes is for the first option, no is for the or part, the second option. Yes means a single. Yeah. No means or have a list.
We have the question on the questa qua? Quella di splittare le revisioni in 2?
Quella di splittare le revisioni in 2, che domanda era?
La domanda io sì, dentro mi ricordo più quale di quelle.
Allora, era la 3. Ok, se c'è. Shall we keep the revision of the running software? Yes. Diventa 4 e 5.
Okay.
E shall we allow the component to report? Se la 5 è yes, si va alla 6. Se la 3 e la 5 sono no, si va a 7 8.
No, però la 6 non l'abbiamo fatta.
E questa qui è
no.
6.
Questa è la lista.
6. Shall we keep a single software revision or have a list?
Ah, ok, scusami, allora mi sono perso io qualcosa.
Cioè, manca la domanda.
Ah, la 8, scusami. La 8.
Ah, la 8 non è dipendente, ok.
No, la 8 non è dipendente.
Ok.
Mi sembrava mancasse quello,
Yeah.
ok.
Yeah, just one clarification. This one, Italo, one also
Yep.
Daniele. Yeah, can you just remind, I would say, us what is the need to have the list of that list there before people,
Yeah,
I would say, reply?
comment, yes, the comment was on a single card, for example. You can have multiple FPGAs with multiple firmware revisions, or you can have multiple software modules with multiple software revisions. So the question in that case, the original idea was that in that case, I think the complexity was enough to justify go to the software inventory. But some people say if it is only the running, why not putting the whole list here? So that was the question that was raised yesterday.
For this question, I have two
Please.
like question on this. First, is this still belongs to the base inventory modeling?
The list will go to the base inventory, yes. The question is, since we have the single attribute now, based on the answer before, whether we want to make this attribute a list or keep it a single attribute as it is today, yeah.
I'm still, because you didn't talk about this in your slides, but you asked this question out. So.
There was one, I think. It's yeah. So maybe I was too fast.
you can take the mics and go there.
So what's
what's
the difference? You mean you will adding another software revision list?
Okay, here, this one. Okay, if you want to report multiple software modules within the same hardware component, then you need to have a list of all the software modules that run under the same hardware component.
So you will try, like in the basic inventory, there will be description on why there is a software revision list.
Yes, at this moment we have this only one. And the idea is based on the previous discussion is that this is reporting the software that is running on the hardware component and nothing more. The question was during the discussion yesterday was, but what happens if you have more than one software running over your hardware component? We can make this to be a list rather than a single element.
I'm not sure I get your, like, what's the use case that you are supporting? Because the base model is trying to be like, keep the as minimum one.
Yes, so you lie not.
But you now
yes.
It's adding more functions, so I'm not sure.
I tend to agree with you, Bob, but there was a question was raised yesterday, so we brought this for discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got, but I think this is not belongs to the base inventory question.
Okay.
For this specific, I think it's unlikely you would have multiple software versions for the same component. It's likely you get into this situation because you have not modeled the components for them. Okay.
Yeah,
that would.
That's also my feelings, Womi. But
okay, so
there are different different opinions yesterday, so it's good to ask the question.
Yeah, I mean that's most likely, right? And yeah, it's far too complex now.
Yeah, I also agree. It's less likely, but the point is, if this is the case, even a corner case, we cover that.
Yeah, I think that the point is whether this is a corner case that it's a complex enough scenario that justify implementing also the software inventory rather than just the base.
Right. And also for the software inventory, I would say, I agree to keep this. If it's a list, put it in the base inventory. But with regards to the details, like what is the active, what is the standby software revision?
No, it's just running. This is just running.
Yeah,
it's only running.
That needs to go to the software.
No, we have already agreed that in the base it's only the running software. The question is whether it's only one or multiple.
Right.
Yeah.
And this will help us avoid implementing both hardware and software inventory for complexity. Right?
Yeah. Well, a side comment I made to Roberto offline was that if you create a list, then when you have a software component, then the list must have only one entry. That's one of the drawback of the list.
Yes,
yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let me say that again, we can have more than one software component because is required for the basic functionality. The point here is about if it's a base model is about the basic functionality.
Correct, yes.
A software module that is used for a very advanced feature is something that is...
Yeah. The question is in the context of the base model. For the answer model from both, I think we will address all of them.
I do believe, and I'm sorry to contradict both, that can be cases in which you need more than one software component to run the basic functionality of it.
Okay.
I believe it's a general case.
I see.
So we only have 20 seconds left, and we have a couple of more questions to go. I don't want to steal the time to the next two presenters. So how do you want to proceed? Do you want to take the jump to the questions?
Yeah, okay. Yes, not sure about the last one, yes. But the last one, I think without the slide, I don't know if people can understand the context.
Okay, so we take that to the list,
and
okay, we just do the
okay, yeah.
Number 8. Do you want to explain it a little bit? Or?
Yes, the under 8 is about this small issue that we have a different way to report software revision in 7370 and 8348. In one case, and in the current model, we have a single string which we call software revision. In 7317, we have two strings, the version and I don't remember the other one. The version and the release. So the question is whether we need to split the revision into two attributes or keep one string. That's quite straightforward question.
Yes.
Two strings will be these two. Release, software release and software version. Oh, yes.
As usual, yes to the first, no to the or
yeah.
what comes after the
So yes, one revision, no, two strings.
And can you just remind us what is currently widely implemented?
Sorry?
Can you remind us what is widely implemented today?
I don't know, because we have 7317 and 8348 have a different approach. So I don't know which one has been widely implemented.
Okay, well, it seems we have a clear indication also here. Perfect. So, if you don't mind, I would close the presentation here.
Yeah, it's okay, yeah.
We managed to answer 8 out of 9 questions, so good job. Probably we can take the last part to the list.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Italo.
So I will suggest if I manage to return a few minutes back, I would say we can continue with the polls.
Why can't I share slides now? It says I'm not sharing. It says I'm not sharing. I try to share and it says, oh, the slot I've taken.
Do you need me to have a try?
Sorry, Shifan.
Do you need me to have a try?
Yes, please.
Okay.
We made it.
Okay, and I can also control it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a presentation for a young data model for passive inventory. Just a brief recap, right? So the main point of this draft is to create a common YAM model for modeling the passive infrastructure that in different technology domains, right? And this also we have already said this work is in a scope for network inventory. so the intention is to create a model that can show what are the passive components between, say, the network elements that are commonly unmanaged, plus additional passive components that are inside an active network element. Right. So basically, since we have the first revision, there have been very significant amount of interest from a lot of participants. We have had comments received from different domains, including optical transport and access and microwave. The main point of this draft is we only try to provide a model that can allow to retrieve and to report what is in the passive infrastructure, but how this passive infrastructure is discovered and this is all the scope of this work. So the main update for this revision is we added co-authors a lot, but yeah, and then also we improved the text describing what is in the scope, and also a lot of the updates are focusing on the terminology descriptions. The Yang model was slightly updated because we wanted to align this with the terminology and also to align with the changes that it was introduced to the base network inventory model. And working along that, we added a few examples for passive inventory and for optical transport and access. So for the terminology part, because the goal is to have the definition covers multiple technology domains, so we introduced a generic term called a guiding media that is used to refers to a common physical transmission pathway that can direct signals along a specific route. So this is generic enough to so that it can be applicable to various medias like optical fibers, electrical cables, and coaxial cables potentially. Right? So then, building on top of that, we define an optical cable is just a type of guiding media that use optical fiber as a media to transmit optical signals, and the same for electrical cables. One notion of this guiding media definition is it can also be the case that several guiding media can be concatenated to form a longer guiding media. So basically, like a cable can be joined to or fused to be a longer cable. So that for that, then we don't need the definition of the cable segment as we did in the first draft. So this is a converted ASCII example of the passive infrastructure for a simple point-to-point optical transport, which contains like network elements on both sides, and then it's connecting to a passive fiber distribution shelf, and then connects to the field. At some point along the route, it will go through a fiber distribution facility that redirects or regroups fibers towards different destinations. And you can see also there, like we illustrated, the shorter cable and the longer cable which was formed by the shorter cables through a joint box. And the same for optical access, that we have like OLTs going through a point-to-multipoint optical distribution network towards the terminal device on the right side. And the type of cables was also illustrated, basically depending on where the cable is is located, you may have different roles in the optical access terminologies. There's like feeder cables or distribution cables and drop cables in the passive infrastructure. Right? And then also at one of the points, we showed that a fiber distribution terminal can be hosted within a cabinet, and that cabinet itself is part of the passive infrastructure. Yeah, so for the YAM model updates, like we said, we made some updates to align with what we have discussed for the terminologies. So as you see here, the main part is a list of cables, and then there's also a specific container that's used to model optical fiber specific attributes, like the number of fiber cores and the type of fibers and their roles. And also a cable could have a list of child cables. Then this is for the cable. And then we also have a list of passive devices that can be described with those attributes and also associated ports within the device. So there were some comments from the last discussion about how the relationship between the topology and inventory could be modeled for passive infrastructure, as well as the modeling relationship with with the CMAP, right? The consideration is that we have already agreed to model the topology and inventory separately, and we have a mapping to associate the topology objects to various inventory objects. So the same approach can be applied to the passive inventory, where we have the passive inventory that can host the information about passive infrastructure, and on top of that passive inventory, you can build a single or multiple layers of topologies, which can be mapped to the passive inventory. So this is just like an illustrative mapping. And so at the bottom you have passive infrastructure that is described in the passive inventory. So if you wanted to show if you wanted to show a topology which is exactly mapped to the passive inventory, you can create a physical topology, the bottommost physical topology, for which each of the node could represent either an active network element or a passive device, right? And then the cable can be represented by a link in the physical topology. And then if you then further up, you can, if one does not care about what is connected in between, they can just create a single link between the two active network elements without showing the details of the passive topology. Right? And then further up, you can create even more abstractions. Yeah, I can take.
You want to take the question now?
Yeah, we can do that.
Camilo from NTT. Somebody's going to laugh at me, but for inventory reasons, one big part of it is what is running in the network, but another big part of it is what we have in storage, because we actually need to know what is there in case something fails, etc., etc. And so we also have cables, and I checked the model. I don't know if you can actually, since you have cables already, you can have cable and a length, and that's it. And that's basically what we could have to model a storage cable. I don't know if it's mandatory to have the rest of the end and so, but it's just a way, it's just something that came up while looking at the model, that we could model something, the storage cable using something like that. Anyway, that's more, that question is a comment.
Okay, yeah, that we can discuss offline, but yeah.
Hello, Daniel Bernier, Bell Canada. I see a lot of operators in the list of co-authors, but do you have actually fiber companies or fiber inventory groups looking at this? Because mainly from an existing workflow, most of the time the fiber footprint inventory, the passive, is actually at the design time of running fibers. And it's actually normally aligned with the ordering system. So when you build the fiber footprint, like you look at the streets, you run your fibers, it actually builds the way you will build your CSPs, all those things, and it also create the SKUs for ordering. So, and that's the biggest challenge. This is how it works. So you can actually try to do a model from systems like this, but real world is like somebody's actually ordering based on how he designs and looking at so that we should have those companies that build those systems of fiber design and street design involved in those discussions, because they won't change their systems for this.
Yeah, that's right. I think the same question also applies to the whole concept of network inventory, right? Because today we have said that for the inventory, we are modeling on those network inventory that are deployed in a field, but for the planned inventory, there needs to be further developed as to how we can make it there. But for now, it is not in the scope, at least for the model.
Maybe what would be good though is, instead of having like a really detailed inventory logic of this, is really more like a abstracted pointer towards something that is more detailed. Instead of having to try it in the model, have like a generalized model that would say, well, for any particular detail, this is your reference point, which is going to be it. So most of the time it ends up being vendor, like, do you do Corning? Do you do Ribbon? They have their own SKUs, they have everything like this. So if you try to detail all of this, I will be retired, and I'm younger than a bunch of people in that room. So I will be retired before we get this going. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, we can discuss further on this point.
While we are handling the queue, a reminder to the working group that there is a poll that is running. Have you ever read this draft? Any revision?
All right, Mahesh, I took the opportunity to go and actually look at the charter to figure out whether this draft is actually in scope of the current charter. I'm not saying that the work is not important. I want to get the work group to focus on the items that are in charter. And my interpretation reading the charter, which was written before I became AD, is that it's not quite ready for our part of the charter as yet. Okay. Unless you can point me to something in the charter that reads specifically about passive devices. So I would say, hold on to the work, keep working on it, but as far as work group adoption is concerned, we'll have to recharter the thing to include this. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that's a good comment. Thank you.
So we all did the next question, which was supposed to be, is it ready for adoption?
Correct.
But thanks for pointing out, because I was giving for granted that it was part of the charter, but we will go back reading it and check if this is the case.
That's good.
Okay.
Okay, so
I think we need to jump to the next presentation, Ayo, because we only have 10 minutes left.
Yeah, that's fine. So basically, just to see, the next step is to address open issues, and if you're more than welcome to join the discussion to push forward the concepts and the model. Just one quick thing is, we have a weekly meeting, and right now the invitation is down myself. Would it be possible to ask a working group to set up a WebEx for that?
That's not a problem.
Sounds good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Diego.
So
don't know. I guess it's the air conditioning. Okay, so this is about the entitlement inventory model that it was presented in Bangkok. We got some requests for simplifying and making it clearer, focusing on use cases, etc. This is a result of this. Still, probably you may have still some open questions, but this is in the hope that this goes in the direction that the group thought we should go, and trying to maximize consensus. Yeah, this is just to make clear that what we're trying to do is to extend the base network inventory, though the nature of entitlements, that is what you can do with the network elements, is something that looking at how we can model is something that has to be part of the extending the base network inventory. We have not talked about capabilities yet, but this is something that we will talk later on. So the key feedback, as we interpreted it, and this was the notes we have, is this is the list for real-world examples to clarify how capabilities and entitlements were bound, clarify the things about what this was the we understood it as what is the real goal of this particular draft. And was something that it was true that originally everything was marked as read-write, so it was suitable to be configurable, and it's true that entitlements should not be configurable. I should not be able to change the entitlements of my equipment that I have acquired. So, well, this one, as you can imagine, it was easy to address. We were not going to talk about it any longer. The schema is changed. So, for the real-world examples, there we have added 3. In order of complexity, just to illustrate what we're talking about entitlements and why we are modeling these entitlements through the entitlements enabling to use certain capabilities of the element. So the basic one is you have adding a capacity of running MPLS. In the second one, what we are doing is that a running system is upgraded with an additional license. We know that license is the general term used everywhere, but we wanted to be first neutral and deal with cases, let me insist, from the very first time we're talking about that, like the cases in which you're using something that is open source or is a free mechanism or whatever. So the idea is to be a little bit, have a wider scope, but that's why we're talking about entitlement. And finally, is a case in which you have a floating license that is used by a license server and that has some restrictions. So the floating license has to be applied in different situations. These are the 3 examples that we have prepared. They are on the draft, and they try to illustrate the process and address something that is this idea of that capabilities and entitlements are not bound in a clear way. We had tried to express this in the draft. This was a text that you have there. And specifically, this binding is specifically addressed in more detail with the example of the basic one, just to show how we are connecting an entitlement and a capability. Basically, the models is that, when you have the entitlements are associated either with software network elements or a hardware network elements, and we foresee 2 ways of doing this. One is that you attach those entitlements to a network element. That means that the entitlements live elsewhere in a typical license server, and they are attached, and they are declared as attached, and either that the entitlements are installed in the network elements, and that implies that they are listed explicitly as part of the network element, or connected with the components. That's another story. And the modeling is, as I said, is basically we list the entitlements. In general, this is the simple way is about the idea. I have an element, I have its licenses, but it's not really matching with current practices and the different cases that as operators we have. So we have, this is why we are thinking about this capability model, or the idea of having capabilities. The capability model will come after this. This is something that is in the oven for you to enjoy in Montreal. So the idea is that you address this and associate it with a tied licensing model in which you have it attached to the particular capability and can be explored. And the idea that not well recently, in the last times, we have seen as well what we call restrictions. That is typically the pay as you grow. You can add, you start with a restriction, you can pay your technology provider, you modify the restriction in a particular direction. This is just to show again and to insist in how conceptually we're thinking is about you have software and hardware network elements supporting capabilities, and what you have got your modeling with entitlement is a relationship in which we are enabling a certain capability in any of the network elements. That's the practical thing, and let me say this, we do it by listing or by attaching. And when we're talking about restrictions, is something that is added to a capability and put some limit on it and can be and is associated with entitlement. When you declare an entitlement, you say, well, you're entitled to use this, but you cannot use this more than this bandwidth. You cannot use it in devices that are located in a certain place, or you can, I don't know, or people that are shorter than 1.75 meters cannot use it just because it's another restriction. So it's as simple as it is, and the tree is built according to this. And I mean the tree before anyone says, but you don't have the module. That's true. We don't have the module because given the complicated story that this draft has had and the previous drafts that are in the origin of this one, we wanted to have a general consensus among how to model this, working with the tree, and then start making the formal module. If we have the feedback from the group that this is the way to go, we are more than happy to start with the module because what we need to do is the same we did with the trees, that is pruning them a little bit. So basically there is something about clarifying when we're talking auto discovery and pre-provision intent. This is something that it should have been clear in the previous version, but is about the goal of the model. The goal of the model is about describing entitlements. It's about how you describe what you can do, the licenses you have. And is thought as an extension of the base network inventory. What we're not going to consider in this draft might be in the future, and that's something that it is about planning, licensing policies, discovery, enforcement, etc. Once we have a clear model for entitlements, we could start thinking about the other aspects. But for the moment, and this is why, just to clarify that we are not going to, we don't have an intention of playing with auto discovery. We have an intention to play. Entitlements are there, have been going to be pre-provisioned one way or another. It's not that in the future, let me say, we will talk about that. And I think that I finished. This is about the next steps. We incorporate additional feedback if, and that's not as a specific bullet point, but let me insist, if we gather some consensus that we are heading in the right direction, we don't pretend even that we go out like this and Daniel starts a new show of hands and are you happy with this model? And well,
I was planning to do it.
No, but that happy doesn't imply, please, let me clarify, that happiness would not imply or should not imply total agreement. It's simply that you think that we are going in the right direction, then apart from incorporating additional feedback, the idea would be to work on the module and come with a detailed module that we can discuss about. Well, hopefully we will be ready for some kind of adoption in the foreseeable future.
But first of all, thanks a lot because you focused the presentation on what you want to do, which is entitlements, capabilities, restrictions, instead, and how this relates with what already exists instead of jumping into modeling things. So I think that helps a lot. Matt, please.
Yeah. So Matt, as a contributor, say, yeah, echo exactly what you have mentioned, Daniele. I think I really like the current sketch, I would say, which is presented here. I think that we have a direction for this work. There may be some data that we may end up, but this is just normal process we can do. But I think that this is really a good starting point, what you have just clarified. So thank you and the team for did this work.
Thank you. Happy to hear that.
And speaking about the charter, so entitlement is explicitly part of the charter. Capabilities and restrictions are not, but I think we can assume everything is covered.
I would say they're part of the entitlement concept. That's
perfect. So you asked not to have a poll.
No, go for it.
We will make you happy with that.
I just wanted to be.
Okay. I don't know, Shufanga, if you had prepared the polling or should I do it? I know. Okay, perfect.
Yes, there's a polling that is running. Is it time now to adopt this work? We need some feedback from the working group, so please fill in the polling.
And just one clarification, while the previous, it wasn't exactly a polling, it was the authors asking questions to the working group of whether we do A or B. This is a real polling, so this is just showing or better sensing the temperature inside the working group. This is something that needs to happen on the mailing list. But I think that unlike previous sessions, we have a very good support.
We made it. We made ourselves understood, and I hope. Well, thank you for the feedback. This is part of the fun, and at the end, you feel so fulfilled that all suffering is justified.
Perfect. So we will take this to the mailing list, and that's it.
Okay.
The session is over.
No, we had 26 seconds, 25. We had time for another poll, Daniele. That's.
Do you want a lunch? Thanks a lot. See you in
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.